everyone. Thank you for joining us again on SLT time. The next couple of episodes are going to be a little bit different. So we're going to focus on Black History Month, which is the month of October. And we wanted to have another take on it through SLT time, where we celebrate and mark all the positive and amazing work that Black therapists are doing in our profession. So today we have a third year student, Ikraan. Hello, Ikraan.
Hello, hi.
How are you, Ikraan?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, good, not bad. Just trying to adjust to COVID times, as we were just saying, and trying to manage the pressures that come with that. So, Ikraan, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe how you came across speech language therapy? Let's dive straight in.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Ikraan. I'm a third year speech and language therapy student at City University, and I kind of stumbled across speech and language therapy. I think I've heard of it before in like secondary school and primary school, but I didn't really know what the role entailed. But I remember I was talking to a friend, and I think she was applying for it or was interested in it, and I was like, it sounds really interesting. At the beginning, because I heard it was speech and language therapy, I thought it was to do with just talking. And I was like, oh, I like to talk a lot, so this must be for me.
That's good then.
But I did research, and I thought it was really amazing, such an amazing profession to get into, aiding people in like communication, language and speech. And so I applied for it, and I got in, and I was like, let's go.
That's great. And did you have an idea of what speech and language therapy was? Did that come from like the research that you were doing, or have you ever met speech and language therapists before you kind of looked into it?
Before I did meet a speech and language therapist, so I took a gap year, and I worked as a SEN one-to-one teaching assistant. So I did come across a speech and language therapist. I had a brief conversation with her. She wasn't in the school that much, so I couldn't speak to her a lot. But when I did, on the day that I was, the days I was working, she gave me a kind of a brief insight. And then after, I decided to kind of do research, and I realized I think like this profession was for me.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think quite a few of, I guess, non-white SLTs, for want of a better term, sort of stumble across it. Yeah, which is interesting. And how's it going at City? So you're in your third year right now. How's it going with, I guess, a different way of studying as well?
It's going interesting. As I was saying to you guys before, I have been finding it very difficult, but I think everybody has been finding it difficult adjusting to online learning, and you have to have like this different level of motivation to keep going, because obviously you usually go to a 2-hour lecture and then that's kind of it in terms of your time in university. But now it's sitting down, really understanding the pre-recorded lecture material, and keeping on top of that every single week, because if you don't understand that, you won't really be able to kind of understand the live Q&A sessions that they do, and which is roughly an hour. You'll feel lost. So it's like every week you just have to keep on top of everything. And I think everybody's just trying to get used to it, and they are finding it difficult, and I am as well. So yeah.
Definitely. I think it's that work-life balance, isn't it? Especially when you're sort of working in your home environment. And I mean, I feel that when I work from home, I'm less productive as well. So you don't have
Guilty.
that space time. I know, it's just being honest, really. And then I end up working really late hours, and then I don't rest evenings. But
yeah, it's so hard to motivate yourself. Like, just that much more effort for every little thing, which used to take 10 minutes will take 20, no doubt.
That's me on paper, literally.
What are you enjoying about the course?
You know, I was literally going to say that, because I was like, I feel like I'm just complaining. I think so far it's just how much I feel like I've grown as a person, and kind of entering third year and thinking to myself, like, wow, like I actually got here. Because I feel like there were so many moments in my first year, in my second year, where I really doubted myself, and I really didn't think that I was able to kind of get through. So I feel like when you have those reflection moments and you're like to yourself, wow, like I kind of did it. Well, I haven't reached to the final kind of level of finishing, but feeling kind of, I guess, proud of myself that, you know, I was able to kind of go over the battles that I didn't think I was able to, whether that's to do with like the assignments or placement issues or anything like that. So yeah, just feeling like this is the third year and I'm ready, and hopefully, you know, it goes well. So yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Do you think your perception of what speech language therapy is has changed from when you were sort of applying to like now?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I feel like at the beginning I didn't realize there would be kind of the issues that I would face or the barriers that I would face when I started. I remember I actually went to the open day. So I went to City University open day, and I thought in terms of diversity and things like that, I didn't really see an issue. Um, so I was like, yeah, it's fine. And walking around the university, I was like, yeah, that's something that I would never face at all during the degree. I really didn't think I would. And I think it was when I started the course and, you know, went to my first placement, I realized I feel different. I feel very different. And at the beginning, I kind of just told myself like, oh no, it's normal. But I did feel like I stuck out a lot more, and especially on placement. So one of my placements was in a predominantly white area. And it was actually it's not that far from my house, but I remember when I first went to the first day of placement, I could feel people looking at me, and I feel like even my practice educator, she had that shock on her face, like, oh hi, and I'm just like, hi. And it's just this kind of like thing in the air, and I'm just like, I don't really know what it is. And I feel like I always feel like that though, this kind of like, oh yeah, I do study speech language therapy, yeah. So yeah.
You are looking at the right person. Yeah, that's interesting. Did you ever feel when, like, as a student, maybe on placement, like maybe on that placement that you were talking about, were you ever worried that someone would say anything, like in terms of service users or like parents?
I really was. Like I kind of bring it up briefly to my clinical tutor as well, because I was like, I feel nervous, and I feel like, you know, when you're a student as well, you're already really like anxious and nervous about just talking to parents, but on top of it, it was kind of, I feel like I was trying to defeat this perception they might have of me as they look at me whilst I'm talking to them. So I feel like it was really challenging at times, because I think even the parents coming in, because of the area that the service was in, the clinic was in, it kind of obviously impacts who the service users are as well. So I feel like sometimes even the parents kind of like, oh yeah, like kind of that shock. And I'm trying to be confident in who I am, and, you know, show them that I'm here to help their child, but at the same time trying to kind of like get rid of this perception that they might have of me just by looking at me. So I do feel like yeah, it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
It's like you have to do extra work just to prove yourself, not just as a student, but in the sense that I don't look like what you were expecting. So I have to prove myself that you have to do that extra.
Yeah.
Work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's weird. Sometimes I debate whether it's like just all in my head. I don't know if that's the big comment to make, but sometimes I'm like, is it just in my head? Am I just going crazy, or is like, do I actually stick out like a sore thumb? And I feel like sometimes as well, you end up doubting yourself and your abilities, and you feel like, am I actually like, is this kind of job for me? Like, do I actually know what I'm doing? And I think it comes down to, I think you guys have definitely spoken about this in your other episodes, is that seeing people that look like you. Like I don't think I haven't seen a lecturer or someone like a practice educator or someone that I feel like I can really relate to. So I feel like it does come down to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think most people have that feeling. Well, I know I've had it as well, and I think we've spoken about it as well. Is it in my head? But I think I've come to sort of the conclusion that if you're feeling it, then there's a reason why you're feeling it, and sort of picking up from like maybe nonverbals of like people around you, or lived experiences of what you've experienced before and things like that. And I guess taking from that is making sure that you're able to have that conversation, for example, if you're on placement with your placement educator, that this is how I feel, for them to be aware that you're really trying to do two things at once,
Yeah.
like Seneca said, which is really difficult.
Yeah, it is a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It was good for trying. I think
Yeah.
you sort of approached it, which is more than what I did.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Even just stuff like, I think one thing I've definitely learnt though is just never be ashamed of who you are. I feel like at the beginning I was really nervous. Like, I'll give you an example, like, because I pray 5 times a day, that's something I always bring up every time I start placement. I always get this feeling of anxiety, like, I don't know, I'm going to tell them, they're going to look at me like I'm really weird. And I remember the first placement I had, she was lovely about it, but it was just in my head, I was like, it's kind of like I whispered it. I was like, I need to pray. I need somewhere to pray. It's like, okay. It's just like, she just kind of like, well, what do you do? I was like, oh, I need somewhere to pray. And she's like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. But in my head, I was so nervous. Like, it's like I'm swearing at her or something, or saying something really bad. And then over the years, like, especially in second, I just realized, like, I have to be confident of who I am, because this is who I am with or without this profession. Like, it's something I'm always going to carry with me. So I think that's another thing, is just being proud of who you are, whether that's your religion, whatever it is, your beliefs in life, like carrying that with you and never being ashamed. Because I feel like the moment you feel kind of ashamed and you're insecure about that, it makes everything a lot more worse. And it stops other people, I guess, being educated. So now, for example, if somebody else goes to this practice educator and says I need to pray, it's kind of like, they've already been there, they already know what's happened, what you praying. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember when I was on placement, and with like my friends from uni, and you know, we had our own circle, and it was like, did you tell them that you need to pray? What did they say? And it's like so this big secret that you have to like sort of start off, and normally you have to say it in like the first meeting as well, and it seems like such a big thing, but actually, like, I guess as well, from my experience with the placement educators that I've had, they've all been fine with it. Yeah. To be honest, even when I start a new job, I'm like, okay, so how am I going to approach this?
Like, when am I going to say it? What's the right moment to say it? Like, should I email them? Should I say it in person? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, one of those things.
I feel like as soon as you mention it, though, it opens up doors for that kind of communication about what is appropriate, and like, absolutely. Actually, in my job now, one of my schools, one of the school therapists has like booked out a room for me for prayer, because there was a previous therapist who was Muslim who did that. She did that for before, or I don't know. So like, from that experience, you're making it a bit easier for the next person who can just come in and slot in, and you know, don't have to explain themselves so much. Yeah. It's always a first day conversation that you just have to get in there and say.
I remember once I was praying, and like, because I had like a therapy room in one of the schools, I used to just use that room all the time, and I didn't tell the Senko that I was praying. I would just pray at lunchtime in the room, and like someone walked in and I was,
oh my god,
like, awkward. It's just on it. And like you said, it's just wearing, I guess, your beliefs on your sleeves, and that's me, and that's how I come.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way of approaching it. In terms of like placements that you've been on, anything that you've studied, is there anything that sort of stands out to you in terms of like what you're interested in terms of speech and language therapy?
Something that I'm definitely interested in, I mean, I haven't had actual experience with this, but working with young offenders, it's something that I've just, since like I started speech and language therapy, I remember, I think we had a lecture on it or something about the statistics, and I was really shocked. I can't call the statistics off my head, but they were really high numbers where, for example, there were specific studies that were saying things like 70 or 80% of like the study that I was doing had the young offenders had like 80% language difficulty, and nobody knew. And it said that the staff in that particular young offenders institute were confident that they didn't. And it's like, that's such a big, of course it's a big cycle of loads of different aspects, but speech and language therapy is something that could definitely benefit a lot of people, and it's something I'm very interested in. Like, I think that's one of the main reasons I made a Twitter account, for example, because I wanted to connect with people that do have experience working with young offenders. And yeah, it's something that's really interesting. Yeah.
It really is. And I think I also had that like realization that it's like 2/3 of young offenders have underlying language difficulties, speech and language difficulties, and that's something that most people won't know, that we're in so many different settings, and that's how varied the role is. But I think the more we like get that out there, more people will be getting into this profession, I think.
Yes, 100%. Because I was really shocked. I was like, speech language therapy in prison? What? I never even knew that existed. And just seeing the way everything links together, you know, like the way you can benefit and really help somebody through helping them their speech and language is absolutely amazing. Their communication and how much that can actually build someone's confidence, and the way everything kind of links together, it's amazing. Like I was reading some article and it was just speaking about how much communication is really your identity, and you know, if you're in a profession where you're helping someone communicate better, it's amazing. And just some like things that people that work in the Young Offenders Institute do is even help the young offenders maybe understand intervention packages and understanding how ways and to communicate, and that then stops them from reoffending, and it's just a cycle. And I think just generally speech and language therapy, it's just a part of breaking this big cycle. And with young offenders as well, working with young offenders, it kind of goes back to the fact that a lot of them come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, which also does link to things like ethnic minorities. So yeah, I just find it amazing how everything kind of interlinks with each other.
So what's the one thing about speech and language therapy that you would want clients or people to know?
That's a really interesting question. I think I saw this question, I was thinking about it. What's the one thing? I think one of the things that you just said, which is that we work with such a varied clientele. Like there's not just the one specific group that can benefit from speech and language therapy. Because I feel like, I remember I made a tweet about this, but I feel like most people don't know what speech and language therapy really is. And it's just like, they just think you just help people talk. And it's just like, no, but it goes way beyond that. So I think that, you know, we work with people and I think you change lives. Like it's not just, it links back as well what I was saying in terms of helping people with their communication, which is such a big part of somebody. And I don't think, the thing is I feel like if you realize most people that know about speech and language therapy are people that have had like speech and language therapy themselves, or like a family member, and they've seen how much it's impacted their lives. And if you speak to a lot of people as well, they say that, you know, my cousin or my granddad, this happened to them and they had speech and language therapy and it changed their lives.
Like you said, it's quite hard to explain what speech and language therapy is anyway, even in English, which is the language that I'm most comfortable with. But what does that then mean for all the families that we work with, and how do we explain what our role is? And if they don't understand it, then they're less likely to be engaged and with therapy as well.
I feel like I was just gonna say that it's difficult explaining English. Like even in Somali, I can't even say it. I don't even know what to say. Language doctor? I don't even know.
Oh, I feel like you tweeted about that. That was
yeah, I did. Yeah, it's like even my mom, like she literally, that's what she's like. My mom thinks I studied being a doctor of language. Like it's really difficult to kind of explain. And it also, I guess, explain the importance as well. So I feel like that's something I definitely would love to do in the future, is kind of narrate to people actually the importance of speech and language therapy in people that need it in their lives. Because I feel like that's something that maybe is not narrated as well in communities where speech and language therapy is really new or kind of doesn't exist, and it's something that they kind of don't understand.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I think that was the one video that Miriam you shared that was quite good. It was in Somali.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah,
useful in loads of languages as well. Like
so that was my Somali friend Marianne. She was in the episode that we just released.
Yeah.
She made that video.
It was amazing.
That's really good. So we talked about your sort of interest in like youth offending, and then maybe sort of explaining to different communities what speech and language therapy is and things like that. So thinking of that, what would be your ideal scenario in like a couple of years when you're a practicing speech and language therapist? What would be your perfect scenario in that sense? Where would you be working? What would you be doing?
I hope, I've always wanted to definitely work with young people, like just somehow be a part of like the change of helping young people, and whether that is, I might have a different passion, for example, but whether that is working with young offenders or not, just allowing people to find their voice again or find their confidence again. I'm just a big advocate of, if my profession allows me to kind of help somebody with their confidence, then I've kind of done my job. And because I feel like that's the thing, a lot of people think that speech language therapists they can change your speech or they can change your language within 2.5 seconds, but it's a process. And every session, every moment you have with who you work with really does matter, and it contributes to this big picture. And by the end of it, it's like, even if that progress, obviously people progress at different levels, but even if it's really small, it's so big in the long term. So yeah, definitely working with young people, and also for hopefully the diversity of speech language therapy to be a lot more. And I do feel like there has definitely been progress within the last couple of years, but to see people that kind of look like me, or to be able to basically go work somewhere and kind of not always feeling left out or feeling kind of outside, or like I don't fit in this equation of what a speech and language therapist looks like. Because I even remember, my sister's a nurse and she works in intensive care, so she sees a lot of speech and language therapists. And like, I remember even at the beginning, when I told her I wanted to study, she's like, oh really, that's really interesting. She's like, she even said that, most of the speech and language therapists she's worked with are white females. So to be able to kind of see progression in that as well would be absolutely amazing. I have definitely seen, like, speaking to people in the years above me, like even Suleika, like about the difference in kind of ethnic minorities joining speech language therapy is amazing. But to see that even more on a wider scale, it would be great, because that also narrates to how people in the wider society also understand speech and language therapy and what it is. So yeah,
it will have wider implications, like where people, I feel like it would have an impact on people accessing services as well. What advice would you give to current and future speech and language therapy students?
That's a really good question. I think to people that do want to study speech and language therapy, like, go for it. It's such an amazing profession, although it has a lot of challenges, and I rant about those challenges every 2 seconds. Like, if you see the WhatsApp group chat I have with my friends, I'm always complaining about something. But in the long term, like, you can really be a part of a big change, especially speaking to people that are from ethnic minority groups. Like, don't be wavered off by maybe thinking, oh, I don't really see a lot of people that look like me, or think that this is not for you. This profession's for everyone, and there is a place for you. And there's a big need for more people of ethnic minority groups to come into this profession. So definitely, come join us. I feel like, as well, as I said at the beginning, is I've really grown as a person. It's challenged me in ways I didn't really think it would. I feel like everyone says this about university in general, but just being on placement, the things I've like seen and challenges that I faced, like, it really has kind of had an impact on who I am as a person as well. And to anybody that's studying or is a student, keep going. Like, you're getting closer to the finish line and qualifying. So yeah, that's what I would say. Hopefully that's good advice.
No, it's really good. And I think, to be honest, I think what I took from this whole thing was what you said earlier, in terms of be proud of who you are, and don't be afraid to show that to people around you, and don't try to hide it, because like you said, you'd carry it with you wherever you go. I think that's a really good advice as well.
I was just going to say, best of luck with everything, and well done. It is really difficult times to be a student. and especially in your third year. And I hope your placements go well. And yeah, it's inspiring. I wish I was as confident as you when I was a student.
I know, right?
Most of the times I am having a breakdown. The rare times I feel a bit inspired. I'm joking.
Well, thank you for talking to us and joining us on our first episode of our Black Month series. And yeah, I think you're doing amazing work already, and sounds like that you will be a great asset, and already are a great asset to speech and language therapy.
Thank you.
So yeah, we wish you the best of luck with your studies. And
you too. I hope you guys are finding work okay.
Thank you for joining us on our first episode of the Black History Month series featuring speech and language therapy student Ikraan. Please do join us on our upcoming episodes where we'll be talking to other Black therapists and celebrating all the amazing work that they are doing within speech and language therapy.
Be sure to follow our Twitter and our Instagram, SLT Time,
at SLT Time,
SLT Time, to keep up to date with new episode releases. And that's the SLT for today.